Hello and welcome to Guys Dealings with Feelings. This show is about giving men a real conversations and real tools for dealing with mental health and emotional strength. I'm here with my good friend Jason. He's a licensed therapist of 18 years and with a strong background in trauma and recovery. With my own path being profoundly shaped by the tragic loss of my son and the work that it's taken to rebuild. Together, we share what we've learned and what we're still figuring out and learning. And if this podcast hits home for you, we ask you to like, share, and subscribe. A quick 5-star review helps us reach much more men that need to hear this material. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts under Guys Dealings with Feelings, and on YouTube and Instagram at ITU Thrive. That's the letter I, the number 2, the letter U, and Thrive. So today we're going to jump on something. In in the U.S., I don't know about worldwide, but in the U.S., we've got a lot of tumultuous things going on, and so a lot of men are feeling unstable. And it's natural. Everything seems unstable, not just us, but it lends to us too. So there's a lot going on in the world, and it's easy to let that stress blend into how we think and act and how we show up at home. This episode is going to break down what being grounded actually looks like, how you can tell if you are or aren't, and a few simple things that we can do as guys to stay steady in everything around us that's chaotic. So, Jason, how you doing today, bro?
Man, I am all right. I'm all right. Yeah. Lessons every day. A lot of lessons learned
Sure,
in
yeah.
a lifetime.
Lights be teaching.
Seems to. Yeah.
Yeah. So so today I am falling prey to a lot of what's going on around us. I know just and I've done a ton of work on myself. So I can imagine that one who is out there still reacting, which we'll get into a little more, but we've definitely dealt with in past shows where we're not ready and able to respond to any circumstance that shows up because of our feet being solid on the ground and what we talk about when we talk about being grounded. So, you know, there's a lot of pressure, fear. I think agitation is something, a word you might use in a lot of this. People feel real agitated. Now, how that comes out in them depends on where they are or aren't in identification of emotions. Historically, I know we talk a lot about historically, that's just me angry. I'm angry, very angry. And I think another one, pardon me, I fight some of this still to the day is just kind of blah. And I know what it is. It's the lack of ease, and something I'm using a lot right now is I told Francis the other day, my 11-year-old, that a goal that you is achievable and a real mark to set is to be able to sit in anywhere, but specifically a quiet place with no distractions of any kind. If we're talking a park bench on a mountaintop by a waterway, whatever, by yourself and be completely satisfied, be at peace, and not have anywhere to be mentally, physically, or otherwise. That is a goal, a tangible goal that I know I could use a lot of work on, and I work on it a lot. But I get focused on my job, what I'm doing for the business, things like that, and I stray away from this. Really, all the tools and tactics, and it's a constant thing. It's not and it's so far off. Like it's so much work, and I've put so much in, so I feel blessed to have put all that work in and be done with so much hard work that I know a lot of people are struggling with just getting started. And it's a slog, like at the beginning, especially. And I'm hopeful that the tools that we put out with the podcast and hopefully soon with the book that I can get out, that these tools can help one jumpstart. But in reality, it just takes a lot of work. It's just like a diet or a weightlifting routine. If you're doing it, it's working. When you stop doing it, it stops working. And now the effects can stay depending on how long you've been doing it. They can stay with you for longer. So if you've been lifting weights your whole life and you take a month off from lifting weights, you don't start looking like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think this is the same way, and but I feel like we get drugged into that, and I don't know. You give me your take from that. I just we want to be, as men, we want to be steady, um, be a rock. It's a word often used. Be the stability that our family and loved ones are looking for at work. If we have employees, whoever we work for, we want to show up for. So these things are all in the back of our mind as men. But I mean, The majority of us aren't even really paying attention to any of that, aren't just
No,
reacting.
I would say no, yeah. I mean, I think if you were to describe, how things got the way they are for many of us, you could say our focus has primarily been external most of life. So we were taught to literally look outside of ourselves, um, for everything, really. And so the majority of us are walking around with what you could call a disembodied experience. We're not really connected to our body and what's happening in the body at the level of sensation. We literally just don't know. So people, like for instance, this is pretty universal. When fear is an active part of our experience, meaning there's energy in the body that just it can't metabolize. Um, Often people don't have the ability to name it, to even know what it is. So the general answer is we're not connected to our insides, you could say.
Yeah, and I know, in a previous episode, you went into that, I think at great length, the disembodiment, and that to some people, it's like, "What the fuck are they talking about?" And to get layman as quick as I can on that, it's we're focusing on, as Jason said, the external versus inside. So this experience, this journey is about us and what we have inside of us and uh, the tools we have, what we can control, the feelings we have, the emotions we experience, where we spend our time and energy. And then there's the external of everything else that's going on outside of us. And we're focusing on what we're going to buy, how we're going to buy it, whether that's a house or a car or transportation to get to the job where we're going to make the money to buy it, uh, to focus on the relationships we have with other human beings, to all of these things that are outside. And a little bit later, we'll talk about it kind of in a control exercise of those things, what we do and don't control. And that embodies what you're speaking about externally and internally, right? Like the external is
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
lot of it is outside of our control versus internal being almost
Yeah.
all in our control.
Mm, yeah, well, the only thing that we're actually experiencing, is what's actually going on, you know? That so here are some because it's so kinda esoteric, right? It's conceptual. So I can point to, um, what isn't natural. So you described our natural state of being.
But sitting on a park bench
Fulfilled,
at
yeah,
peace.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what that requires is presence, a presencing of our life. So, the word grounding, you could also say presencing, presence. Now, grounding typically refers to using the body to cultivate that presence, right? So, grounding practices will say, focus on what you see or what you hear, what you feel. So, it's using the body as an anchor for presencing. Right? So, the majority of us, life is generally, um, the mind is full of the past and the future, right? And that mechanically means we do not know what's happening at the level of sensation in the body. It's mechanical. That is not something we're familiar with at all, generally, not generally familiar with. So it's not natural for that inner space to be full of the past. It means something hasn't been processed, right? So felt. And and so the paradox is that we're allergic to feeling. So we spend a lot of time thinking about life and right. So it's just kind of a general state where m- most people are operating. Not they're not we're not experiencing life presently, you'd say. It's our attention is divided. So we're moving through life with a divided state of attention, right? Um, which means we're just not able to attend to what's going on in the body. We're just not familiar with how to do that.
Yeah, and makes it that leads to the inability to make the connections needed to reduce the things that we would say one is ungrounded. So short fuse, withdrawing from others, or overthinking, doom scrolling on the internet, um, out of control. These type feelings that people can identify with to say, "Oh shit, that's me. I guess I need some." Because we don't even know what's happening in the moment. Because, like you say, we're focused externally. We don't. We're so far away from and the answer. It's all the things that we talk about. I don't think that one can sit down for 5 to 10 minutes and meditate and be all right. I think that we have to deal with the whole body first of all. What we're eating and the physical activity we're doing, etc. But we also have to put in the small work that you do every day, whether it's stopping to pick up a piece of trash that you see in your home or not. A key one I think a lot of us will recognize from our childhood, and probably other thought leaders who speak about, make your bed when you get up, and it's a mindset, and it's a in tune with where you are, where you want to go, who you want to be, and it's not something you can just do kind of in some of the time. It's not that
Yeah,
you have to sit in a room by yourself meditating all the time. Obviously, we've got to work. We're going to get out in society. We like to see other people. We like to do things that we see fun. But we have to understand that there's got to be an adjustment in what we're doing with our time, in that we've got to focus inward. We've got to stand in front of the mirror. That's where I start with it. Is you got to stand in the mirror and say, okay, where we are, these feelings I just rattled off, the short fuse and withdrawing from others and overthinking, doom scroll, all this, where we are is because of this fella I'm looking at right here. And uh, the same fella has the control to get us out of that. And, I think that we get caught in, you know, even if we tune out some things, we'll go through some things that we can do to be more grounded. But when we even when we have the ability to tune that out, we've still got oh shit, where am I going to live? I've got financial stress that's caused talking about where I'm going to live, or the mate that I can attract or not attract because of financial status. Um, we're being fed the big commercial machine and when I say commercials, I mean literally in our hand all the time of the phone selling us things, whether it's uh, and they're things that are leading to where we are with the food that's looks absolutely delicious on the television, but is fucking destroys us when we eat it, and the shoving gambling down our throats. Uh, with sports, I mean, as a guy, if you're watching a football game, you see three things, and it's crazy. So you see three commercials. You'll see food, you'll see medication, and you'll see gambling. Foot
alcohol.
Football games, yeah, you'll see some alcohol thrown in, but really, I don't even know how much they're advertising. I think they advertise to have write offs, but you don't get a lot of alcohol
Mhm.
commercials anymore. I mean, it's literally it's fucking medication, diabetes medication to cover the food that they just showed you on the last commercial that you're eating because you lost from the last commercial of the bet. And
That
the gambling thing is just another addiction that they fed with the food and the alcohol. That is
well,
is
that
a new one.
well, and it's so I was actually talking with my wife about this yesterday. So, what makes something like that possible? So here you mentioned a couple of things that are, yeah, that are beyond important. So they're, I would just like requirements, a devotion or dedication to the truth and responsibility. Right now, my experience. Let me focus on the responsibility piece for a second, because at a point in time when I was looking in the mirror, the honest to God truth was I don't have a clue what's going on. I don't have a clue how I got here. I don't have a clue what the point of life is. Don't have a clue what my purpose in life is. I don't have a real relationship with any, literally any part of my experience as a human. I was completely disconnected from my my life here, like in real overarching ways, right? So, but once I found that out, that I'm responsible to move my feet, you know? Um, so one of the things that I'm currently involved in, right, is consulting. So going into businesses and teaching emotional intelligence workshops. And in the presentation of that, part of what is being presented to the people in the room is they have they have been conditioned within a system. They've been given very horrible information. They've been gaslit as a population, as a culture, right? And and then especially, or not especially, particularly in the vein of feeling and expression and communication, our conditioning has as men has included, I guess you could, we've been discouraged from being sensitive and expressing that, right? We've been discouraged from power and patience, right? Oh, so you mentioned it. It's reflected in all the TV ads and the medications and da 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 da, da all this everywhere. And it's because the people have ailment. I mean, we said we've been conditioned to control and micromanage and fear. You know what I mean?
For sure, I know what you mean. I think that, the man that you were talking about that you stared back at the beginning, I think that's what sucks is we have to find ourselves there, completely fucking lost. I know for me and you,
And
we were at
admit
the
it.
yeah, we were at the end of our ropes with nowhere else to fall at the bottom. We were at the bottom.
Not much else to do but admit
Right,
it. I mean,
right. So
I didn't
you
even
can
really admit it. It was just hell. I don't even know.
it's a and
It's just
in getting help, we figure out we gotta look in the
yeah.
mirror. I had a victim mentality, I guess is probably the best way to say it. Just speaking about
It's a
yeah,
perception, I would say.
it,
It's more of a mentality. It's a perceptual thing,
yeah, and
and that's
so
because it doesn't appear to us that what we're feeling we can be responsible for.
right, because
Does
we have
that?
no idea that
Yeah,
nobody's ever told us
yeah.
that.
That's the actual. To me, that's how you would describe the victim experience. It's just a lack of bodily attunement. So it feels like everything's happening to me. Does that make sense? When actually it just means I don't know what I'm feeling and I don't know how to let go of what doesn't feel good.
It's a lack of complete lack of understanding is another way I would look at it, and you know, I've chipped a lot of block off to get where I'm at, which has meant I've had to quit a lot of things and do a lot of work on that. But I did it in such a back asswards way. Again, trying to put some tools together that are clean and concise. Where so we look in the mirror and we're looking for help. Why am I feeling like this? And it's the I think the response that can help is that's the first thing you've done the first thing you needed to do,
Yeah.
which was to say you needed help. Because a lot of us, to your point about not admitting weakness or really any emotion other than I'm headed to work, whatever that emotion is, has been discouraged. And I I know I can reach back to at least the uh, greatest generation or whatever, the men who fought World War II. They were building a country still. The country was that's really where we came into our own was after World War II, and so leading up to that, the nation was being built. This idea that they would be being sold with some blinking box in their hands, they'd be being sold shit they didn't need. They would laugh at the notion, and
Yeah.
they were more. They did have to grind it out, and they I'm sure needed some emotional awareness too, but they were in a different place human wise. So that's a generational thing that's been taught down to us. So yes, your parents did tell you that, and yes, their parents did tell them and you that. And it's something that so not only have you not been taught to identify what it is that we're referring to, you've been taught the actual opposite. And that's the conditioning Jason was talking about and how easily it happens. It's not just some dark force out there in the world that's coming at you. It's literally coming through generationally. And it seems right because of who it is that's teaching it to us, right? Like it's being delivered from the
Yeah,
very
yeah, yeah.
closest
Yeah.
and
Whether it be clergy or institutions that are supposed to be knowledgeable. So even if it's the psychological community or the psychiatric community or again or clergy, you know. So within the West, what so the
and your
whole
parents because they bought the same load
yeah.
of shit was sold to them.
Well, it's just the evolution of uh evolution of our consciousness as a collective, you know. Uh, which is it's just how it works. Things just evolve, right? So the process is actually a process of the the process of getting to a place of peace, right? Of fulfillment is a process of returning to the body, of our consciousness not being so divided and then being present with feeling and not thinking constantly. And so that's our natural state is just feeling life and whatever comes up moves through and that's okay, you know. So for a long time, I mean, Western society has related to the body as being sin. So the relationship to the body and how to relate to it, how to relate to our feelings and sensuality and things
Sensuality.
happening in the body, we've been yeah, on all levels, man. We've been conditioned out of naturally being in the body, right? From religious institutions to other societal institutions that prioritize
Prioritize.
the left hemisphere, logic, rationale. Uh, it's like a planetary bias. But anyway, so the idea is that we actually return to the body, but we've been conditioned out of actually prioritizing feeling.
Right. I think that getting started in the mirror, so you got that, and you hear something like this, and you feel
Uh-huh.
shit. I relate to all these things these fellas are saying. I do feel all those things, and it's completely natural. Judging or anything like that, I think that it's this constant turmoil that leads to the next decision
Yeah.
that may cause more turmoil. Go back to the gambling thing. I enjoy putting $25 on the game just like the next guy. Um, but if it's not like playing a video game, then it's an issue. Just
Yeah.
there's a reason
Yeah.
I don't drink because I
Yeah.
can't have one.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, and so I
You're
just
asking a I think you're asking a particular question. Let me see how I can answer, I think, what you're asking in a general way, right? So if you just think of life like speeds. So the world is moving really fast, right? And the flow of thought and the mind moves really fast, right? So the process for us is really one of stopping. So there are a lot of different ways and a lot of different techniques that are helpful for that because the body is not used to stopping. Everything will resist it, right? So it's really about stopping. But when we stop and sit down and close our eyes, which limits the senses, which limits the information coming in, allows us to get a better sense of what's going on. When we do that, life catches up. So what happens then is the backlog that we have from the past is automatically going to be a part of things. But that's okay. The body has a wisdom. It will release only what's wise to release, right? Right? These unprocessed things. So it's really about stopping and figuring out a way to just feel into the body, into our experience without conceptualizing, without naming, just just actually allowing the body to be, just feeling what's happening. So you could generalize it that way. It's really about stopping and letting everything catch up that we have not been attending to. It's already affecting our life. It's not that we're actually avoiding anything, as you know. It's just acting in the unconscious and affecting our behavior and our relationships and the way we think about ourselves and the way we think about the world and God and everybody, right?
Right.
Um,
And I think that understanding that piece of how impactful it is on our entire lives is, what I'm trying to scream from the mountaintops so that people can
yeah,
see.
yeah,
It's,
yeah,
because the reaction to any of this, and I think, when I'm listening to other thought leaders, I think they say the same, and it's people don't have time for this, quote unquote.
yeah,
And that's the irony in it all, is
yeah,
this is exactly what we're talking about, is what's causing all that you tell
yeah,
me that you have no time because of those things.
yeah.
Those are, man, I got all this shit I got to figure out. And
That's the
we,
body chasing what it thinks is going to work to finally let it relax. So, and we don't know that. So the body moves us around without our conscious uh, agency. Like literally, that's what's happening. So, um,
and that goes back to the conditioning.
yeah, yeah, because we've been conditioned to essentially think of it this: we've been conditioned to believe that the satisfying of our desires is the point of life. So what government does, and especially modern governments, they create desire and then the means to fulfill it. So our government is a desire creating machine, right? And so then in order to continue to move a machine, you have to have people that do not know that they're already fulfilled. They're already content. They You have to disconnect them from all that energy and all that desire, right? Because if you're disconnected from it, your whole life will be not knowing what it's about, grabbing something like whether it be a relationship, sex, job, whatever the hell it is, the job that you thought was going to do it, and you get it, and it's a temporary relief, and then that dis-ease and discontentedness comes back online. And we don't understand that all that is the body, the feeling of restlessness and discontentedness, and it's it's literally our nervous systems that are out of balance. And so we're running around trying to grab things in the world when really what's needed to happen is we just need to just close our eyes
Hmm.
and let the system relax, right? Um, but again, for most of us, we're not familiar with doing that. So when we finally do sit down, and it is paradoxical, the fastest way to move forward is to be still. This whole world is paradoxical. Uh, but when we do, it catches up with us, which is what we want. It's just we don't know how to allow it.
And for those listening, so that, we don't even get close to steering off into a conspiracy type thought process. What Jason's talking about, we have totally been driven by our society for this desire to these external things. In a previous episode, I believe it was the episode on community, Jason read off from the 1927 Harvard Review about we need to get people to desire things even though they don't need them.
They were talking
Base,
about
basically,
the creation of a consumer
yeah. So they create.
rather than a sovereign being.
Right. And so
They,
they created
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And they weren't, to your point on that episode, they weren't even quiet about it. They published it in one of the most respected educational places in the country, and then they did it. And here we are. We're a bunch of consumers, and we're chasing something, to your point, externally that is only going to be achievable internally. And I know when we're looking at people who have gazillions of dollars and we hear um, they're unhappy even though they have all the money, and you reference them. Well, I want to be unhappy with that kind of money. But the truth is, when you get there, still lack the satisfaction that you lack right now, thinking that money will fulfill it. You think that is the answer to the problem.
Yeah,
You
because
think if I
money is just a form of energy, so it's all what it all relates to what is our relationship with these things in the world, right? And, prior to my own awakening process, it was clear well, it eventually became clear to me, I did not have a conscious relationship with the most fundamental questions in life. Who am I? What am I doing here? What's going on? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I
yeah,
like? Why?
I'd never asked myself for sure.
None of those questions, man. My life was really you could categorize it as a process of always just trying to be okay. And you can categorize my life prior to the awakening process for me as running, trying to run faster than life can catch up. And eventually life caught up. Now, what I didn't know, you mentioned something earlier with how intense things are right now. And what I say to people, um, I think the biggest way to relate to that is that nobody has any context, right?
Hmm.
And I say to people, yeah, right now it's the most dramatic shift that humans have experienced in quite some time, and we can feel it, right? But many people, because they are allergic to the aliveness in their body because of the conditioning that they've experienced and the traumas, they can't be at ease or grounded currently. It's very difficult to be present because the past is coming up a lot for people. It's a regular part of what's happening right now. The past is coming up a lot for people, right? And so all that means is the body's trying to process stuff, trying to trying to put things down we've been carrying for a long time, right? But we don't know how to do that. So again, people lack context. So I say to people, listen, there are things that you can do that will allow you to experience right now with joy and a level of excitement and also horror at the things you might see. Do you know what I mean? But they would also be placed in a broader context, right? So, because when you go inside and you allow the everything to catch up and again the body to eventually relax, what you're actually doing is becoming familiar with the influence of fear in your life. It's synonymous. So more bodily awareness is becoming more aware of when fear is active in your life.
Is it always just fear? Or is it not being able to identify whatever the emotion may be? Which even at the core level, I know we've got what
Yeah.
fear and love or whatever.
Well, the question that you're asking is too complicated, I think, to fit in the last part of
Yeah.
this
Okay.
because fear is actually a lack of coherence. There could be a whole podcast. So it's meaning we're not familiar with energy. So what's happening in a moment is the past comes back up, or what people would call the future. But what the feeling that we're interested in, that time warp that happens where the future and the past is now active, and it's like this wah that you're experiencing, um uh that's the body's attempt to just process the experience. But the experience was recorded for us on all levels. What we saw, heard, every sense recorded the life event. Okay. So, and typically the life event, what is not being processed at the time, at the most, like proportionally, what's not being processed is the feeling of it, how painful and horrible it felt. Right. So the body just didn't have the capacity, didn't have the context. Right. So we just denied it. We just literally just didn't feel it. Right. And so actually, what we call fear is unprocessed past material. This is what it is every time. So fear is just a conceptual word we put on a much more dynamic, multidimensional process.
I believe that's the distinction I was looking for because I think a lot of people hear fear and they're, with failure to identify emotions, you're definitely not
Yeah.
going to hear what Jason's saying. I don't want it to be
It's
dismissed as
actually
if,
that we're actually afraid because we don't know what the feeling is. Do you see what I mean
yeah,
by that?
no,
Does
I
that make
totally
sense?
get it.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to explain that so that somebody didn't dismiss it. So, well, I'm not,
Yeah.
I ain't scared,
Yeah.
man. I ain't scared of
Yeah.
nothing.
I
You
know.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So,
Which is
so
just what I would have said when you would have asked me before recovery. I would have said, "No, no, I'm not really experienced a lot of fear." Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get on to some, some helpful tools, things you can identify with to see, am I headed in the right direction at least? Am I doing, here's some things that we can do to help us in this direction. So, finding out what we do and don't control, we'll go in an exercise on that. Uh, Daily anchors, so a routine that we put in place, whether that's a morning routine or an evening routine or both, preferably, where you're getting your information or how much information you're getting, just period, on the news, on the social media. Social media is so destructive in so many ways for all of us because of the comparison factor that goes
Can
with
I
it.
say something about what you're saying real quick?
Sure.
Okay, the routine piece, what it does is it helps the body begin to relax because what's actually happening outside of a routine is the person is being led around by feelings that they can't relax. So the routine is for the nervous system, right? Um, and then you mentioned a second thing. What was the second thing? Oh,
So yeah,
okay. Watch what you
your
consume. It's
yeah,
really
your
that is very
consumption. Yep.
important for us. Everywhere with our eyes, with our ears, right? With our mouths, what we're tasting. So yeah, sorry, I just wanted to sort of
No, for sure.
expand on those two
Yeah,
things.
those and movement.
Yeah,
Just walking, lifting, breath work, and having some an inner circle where you can have honest, what I would call accountability conversations. And that's not to call, I don't call Jason up and say, hey, Jason, I'm going to list all my problems and I want you to tell me what I'm doing wrong. That'd be great if you had a buddy like that. But I think that's a lot to put on somebody. But really, just when you're in, and it could be a lot at the beginning, and that's why communities are so important. Um, to have others who are in the same place that can empathize with your positioning, have patience with where you are, and understand where you're trying to get. The biggest part of this is acknowledgement and just starting, like putting one foot in
yeah,
front of the other. But if you have somebody you can bounce off and be like, what, can you see what I'm missing here? I'm still, there's something missing. If you can be open and honest, it's like having the mirror talk back to you, especially if you've got an inner circle built of people who have done like minded work. They've put focus on these things, on themselves. They've had some work in. Maybe somebody's a little bit ahead of you. Um, so to go through all of that, I my morning routine starts out with a 3 mile walk with on the phone with one of my kids who's in college. Then I come back and I get my partner and our dogs, and the four of us head out on a 2 more mile walk, and then I get some stretching in, and I try to lift some weights. And that I don't I very much enjoy my walks. The weights and the stretching I could never do it again. I'd be satisfied. But it's so crucial and it's part of routine. So you fit the things in. So what I've expressed in my routine: time in nature, time with loved ones, accountability conversations, a routine. Because I know a lot of people are like, shit, man, I ain't got time for all this shit. And we do, but we got to make it happen. And so you compile these things into your life. And that's what I was saying. It's like it's a lot of work. You can't just snap your fingers to do it, but you can take action immediately with acknowledgement, beginning research, whether it's going through our stuff, finding other stuff that's when we say holistic, we mean your whole body. So we mean your not just your mind and not just your physical body, but your mind, your body, and your the emotional piece that goes with it. And it's all, you heard Jason say it a lot, it's all health. It's not mental health, physical health, and emotional health. It's just that's our health. And we are a machine, a one machine that works all together, And it's all the things that are pulling that machine apart. We reference cars a lot. You put bad gas in a car, think all this information we're pumping in. You don't have a routine for it, so it doesn't, the tires don't get spun around enough. It doesn't get started enough. Well, what happens when you get to it? You got flat tires and it won't turn over. You put bad gas in it, it sputters and runs like shit. This is all the same thing that's happening with our body. And when we neglect it, some bitch runs down on us. And in all phases, physically, that's the one we always pay attention to is physically. I think more and more people are paying a little closer attention to what is referred to as mental health, which is again all this health, but definitely emotional and internal feelings that are fucked up that people are like, I don't like these feelings. I don't want to
Yeah.
be anxious. I don't want, yeah, and you're exactly right. And that's the things that we're talking about. So if you can implement these things into your life,
Let me see how I think I can even, like, supplement what you're saying there.
uh,
Let me try to, I think a good way to describe what we're dealing with, okay, is a segmented quality to our experience. Okay, so it seems like you're describing, like there's a mind, body, spirit. We talk about things like they're distinct. Makes sense? Um, but they're not. That's the rub. Okay. So all our suffering, actually, the focus really needs to be balance. And that would be a balance of movement and stillness because they're both necessary for the body. But as it relates to presencing our life, that you could say the most potent way to approach that is stillness. Because the core issue is that most of us walking around don't even know we're a walking nervous system. So we don't know that thoughts are of the body. They're not separate from the body. Now, that is a statement that we're in the West is kind of mind blowing. It's like, what do you mean thoughts belong to the body? Well, they do. And if you just pay attention to anytime your state changes, the nature of the thinking patterns will change. If you're in an agitated state, the thinking patterns change. Your thinking is less generous, more judgmental. You see what I mean? Black and white, right? So it follows the state of the body, the state of the nervous system. We're so disconnected from what we are naturally, it feels like we're separate from nature, separate from each other, separate from God, in these little isolated bubbles, right? Well, that's because of the way our body is functioning and operating. That's why it feels that way to us. And stillness is what begins to help the body uh, uh, start in a process of regeneration. So stillness, you don't even have to know what the hell. Because how do you really know how a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere start to communicate again? Like, what the hell is a how do you know that anyway? But it does seem that when we sit down and close our eyes, there seems to be this sense of division begins to minimize. And you see the relationship between body and mind, in which they're not different. There are no separate things happening. It's all we're one holistic entity. And right now, it seems like there are all these segmented parts. Does that make sense? And
sure.
so it's really balance of movement and stillness. And nervous systems heal best in the company of others. Is how we're made. We're made to actually co-regulate and find safety with each other. We've just been conditioned to be afraid of each other. So that's not as possible for us yet. But you mentioned community. It's important because the nervous system heals best in community.
Yeah. And it's externally, it's helpful too. I mean, it's so helpful externally. And then to learn it
Yeah.
has an internal benefit as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You
So
could just imagine being in a field with a big tree in the middle of it, and it's lightning and thundering, and you're by yourself. You can just imagine what that feels like, and then Just imagine one other person being there with you.
One other tree.
It's a no, one other person
Oh, under the tree. Oh, yeah.
with you under the tree,
Yeah.
and that just feels different to imagine. Just one other person being there. Something about it that feels different, you know?
No, I totally get it. And to your point of the depending on where you're standing, definitely influences the way you think. I mean, if you're standing in your bedroom versus if you're standing in front of a group of people or in a prison cell or like just you, it's obvious we would think differently.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the tool that I want to throw out there is a control exercise. It's asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control? So if yes, it is in your control, then take some action. If no, then you've got to let it go mentally and redirect your energy back to that which you control. And that's, there's a lot that goes into that statement I just made. I get that. Again, we're trying to episode after episode put these things out there for you to go with. So things that are in our control, attitudes, our routines, how much news we consume, again, how we talk to people. So you hear me talk about being kind to everybody I come to, and in this world, it takes a lot of people back. Now in the South, it's a little more common. Uh, in the North, I know, and in Florida, people look at you like, "Why the fuck are you talking to me?" I continue to be kind to them. I continue to smile because that's who I am, who I want to be. So your effort that you put out at work, financial decisions, internal reactions, and your habits. So sleep, movement, food, phone use, etc. Those are things we're talking about that are in your control. Things that are bringing it out of your control are other people's opinions and the economy, election cycles, how the market is or isn't swinging, how your partner may or may not feel, mistakes that you've made, random life events, and what strangers do and say. And this goes back to the conditioning that we've suffered. We're worried about all that stuff in that second list. We're worried about all the time, and the stuff in the first list we ain't never worried about, or way less. And I think that if we can refocus, and it's a constant work. You're constantly having to do it because these everything on the outside doesn't want you to do that by design. That's part of the whole machine.
It's made to
And,
disperse our attention. Yeah.
right. And you just, if you want to be happy and you want to have the, be able to sit on a park bench by yourself moments,
You got to be able to be in the body.
that's right. And
You
this is
have to
where it
be able
starts.
to inhabit the body. Because I like the idea of the control audit, but I want to like simplify it as well. I want to take us right to that moment where there's agitation. You follow? Right? You can look at it this way. It's a process of learning how to attend to what is happening, and that's happening in your body. So all the future thoughts and like that is actually not happening. It's just imaginary. And so it's a process of learning how to stay with what's real. And that's happening in the body because that the mental story and narrative that's a part of things in that agitation always comes from our past. It's always related to unprocessed material and misunderstandings and assumptions and judgments. That's why we're experiencing the agitation. That's always what it is. It's never them. It's happening here. So it's actually a process of learning how to keep with what's real rather than a mirage,
And
right?
I think that that list is so clear to me how we again engage in the wrong thing. We're just looking at the wrong things and how I did for so long.
Yeah,
If it
same here.
wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that,
Yeah,
motherfucker, if it wasn't for the man in the
yeah,
mirror avoiding everything and not paying attention
yeah.
and putting
Well,
some work in.
let me say it even more. I want to say it like just for my own, just in a cosmic way. Let me say it this way, okay? Our life happens to represent a conscious, uh, awareness in the cosmos right now, alive under the stars. And the body, being able to inhabit the body, be in the body, be present, feeling what's happening right now in this life. That is how we get in touch with the deeper truth of who we are. It's through the body. It's literally re-inhabiting the body. And because we're here, we exist, we're alive. I would suggest that deserves our attention and that deserves our investigation. There's way more going on here than just not feeling uncomfortable shit. It's about finding out who we are, what we're capable of on a deeper level. How responsible can we be in this life? And as men, that's what we want. We want to be responsible for every fucking thing in front of us. We want to take care of everything. We can't do that alone, you
or
know?
under the false education that we've
Yeah,
received up to this point.
yeah, 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 yeah. So we're just working to expand the idea of what does it mean for a man to take care of something? How does that apply to our partner's nervous systems? What does it mean to hold space for feelings, to hold space for their nervous systems? Anyway, I digress. I
Yeah.
It's a
No. Yeah, it
obviously a
is.
passionate
Well,
subject.
sure it is. We're both passionate about it because it's, and if we could snap our fingers and just get it into somebody, because it's, I know at the beginning it's tough. I don't even know how I reacted to hear all this at the beginning of my journey. I didn't hear it.
You
I
didn't
I,
hear it until
I
it got
know.
bad enough, you didn't have a choice.
Right, and then I still had to go looking for it pretty hard. So, the world's going to be full of its shit. Right, life's going to keep happening to us, around us. Life's going to keep happening around us. Circumstances are going to continue to change.
It's
Uh,
speeding up.
that's right, and it's going to continue to speed up. But you don't have to just live in that chaos. You stay grounded and you pay attention to yourself. You keep some steady habits, like we discussed earlier, focusing on what you can control and letting go of the things that you don't. And when you do that, you're going to show up better for yourself. And you're going to show up better for the people that you love, people around you, people at work, all of that. We want to thank you so much for your time. It's your most valuable asset. And we sure appreciate you sharing it with us. And until next time, we hope you have an awesome day.